Hello, how is everyone doing? It is your fallen angel back with another video. Today, we are going over dreams, explaining dreams, the depth of dreams, the synchronicities of dreams, its importance in the physical plane, why you have them, its truth in the soul. But before we get started, feel free to check us out on Patreon, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, things of that nature. Also like and subscribe, and let's begin. According to the yoga philosophy of India, the states of consciousness are primarily threefold: Jagrata, or waking consciousness; Savapna, or sleeping consciousness; Shushupti, or spiritual consciousness. That which is normal to the dream life is Sapna. It is convenient to regard the ego or conscious individual as a thread, Sutratrama, the thread soul, as the Hindus call it, a pawn, which is a bead representing the center of consciousness. So guys, these three states of consciousness, Jagatra, Sapna, Shushupti, these all coincide with the Om, which is the powerhouse of the world. Om is a powerful chant. Om, many electricians know, is part of the electrical current, right? This also ties into 432 magic. Feel free to check out 432 magic on this channel as well. If the thread be divided into three colored sections, we shall then have the three planes of life upon which the center of consciousness can function. In the present instance, we are concerned with the middle stage of or plane, that of dream life. There is a neutral or nodal point separating each one of these stages of consciousness from that above it. As regards the mass of people, the Jagrata, or waking consciousness, is the norm. But in the mystics and visionaries, the Sapna, or dream consciousness, is the norm. And just as the ordinary, matter-of-fact person passes in sleep from Jagrata to Sapna, the visionary to whom Sapna is normal passes into sleep in the Sushupti. So guys, an easier way to understand waking, dream, and deep sleep is to just understand the brainwaves, whether this be beta, alpha, and theta states, whether this be the waking theta states, whether this be the alpha states of the relaxed states, and then theta of deep REM. This is another way to look at this. If you want to look into the brainwaves, we also have that video on this channel as well. So this just explains the brainwaves and how they operate during waking, whether this be beta, during a relaxed state of alpha, or just deep REM of theta. This being, understood as the concomitant result of variety of evolution or individual development, are distinguished from mere intellectual accomplishments. We may next consider the nature and cause of sleep, and then pass to a study of dreams, their nature and significance. During the activity of the body, during the day, every muscular action, every mental effort is followed by the breaking down of a number of minute cells, all of which discharge their vital contents into the system. This vital content of the cell is called in the yoga philosophy prana. It is like an electrical charge. So long as it remains in the cell, it can be used and directed at will in the form of a current of energy. But when the cell is broken up by the force, it's dissipated into free ether or space and goes to swell to the sum total of latent energy in the world. So we understand that prana, we are electromagnetic beings. Everything that we're doing, every effort physically, mentally, spiritually, is electromagnetic. So this is also known as prana. It's all electrical charges moving within this cosmos, moving within the ether, moving within all 12 dimensions. It is latent energy in this physical plane. When this process of breaking down has gone on in the system for some time, the body is flooded with the vital principle. And if this was to go on to any great extent, disease and death would be inevitable result. Vitality is not measured by the amount of prana in the body, but by the amount of which we have under our control. There is a good deal of life in a putrid carcass, but none of it is coordinated or under control. So this life force, the subconscious, is also vitality and prana. It's controlled life force. This life force is controlled through the beta state. A lot of it is controlled. We have to understand that there's also prana in a dead carcass as well, but it's not coordinated or under control. for the purpose of reabsorbing the vitality and repairing the cellular structure of the exhausted battery. Nature has provided the exhaustion shall be followed by sleep, as day is followed by night, and summer by winter, when the powers of recuperation become impaired, when this subtle arceus passes beyond our power of automatic refreshing, then age and disease begin to assert themselves. So guys, arceus, the vital principle or force that refers to the lowest and most dense aspect of the astral plane, which presides over the growth and continuation of all beings. So, when the powers of recuperation become impaired, when this subtle arceus passes beyond the power of automatic refreshing, then age and disease begin to assert themselves. ADREM. We sleep because we are exhausted. We awake because we are refreshed. When we are asleep, we dream, because the immortal soul of us, that which we call the man, manas, or mind, never sleeps. The subconscious is never asleep, since it is never exhausted, and this transference of its activity, of its dual functions to a higher or more interior plane of consciousness, is the cause of dreaming. So we have to recognize first and foremost that the subconscious never goes to sleep. Even if we go to sleep, the conscious body goes to sleep in the physical plane. But what's going on in the astral plane is the subconscious will not sleep. So it will pick up pieces of the memory. The hippocampus is constantly at work. The subconscious is still at work, either transferring short-term memory to long-term, or picking up old memories, picking up old traumas through the limbic system, thinking of new patterns through the neocortex, enjoying the food you ate because of the crocodile brain, survival and reproduction. It's thinking of all these things at a physical plane and also in the astral plane. Of what nature, then, are dreams? Obviously, they are only the perceptions of the soul in its middle or twilight state of consciousness. Dreamland is shadowland, neither darkness nor pure light, but a chiaroscuro of mingled perceptions. Dreams are primarily of three kinds. So, the chiaroscuro technique is great for getting the best out of light, shadow, and their shades. This technique of light, shadow, and grades and shades is also what tattoo artists use, whether this is black and gray art, whether this is any type of artwork. They use this to show the light, shadow, and the shades. This also explains perception. It's picking up light, shadow, and the shades, taking things from the light, taking things from the dark, taking things out of context. That is also the dreamland, the shadowland, darkness, no pure light, but the chiaroscuro of mingled perceptions. Those which arises as memories of those waking state of consciousness. That's number one. Number two, those which have their origin in the current changes of thought and feeling taking place in the dreaming state. And three, those which descend as illuminations from the superior plane of spiritual consciousness. So there's three types of dreams that we could have. One being a memory, two being an origin of the thought or feeling that anticipated or created a new nuance in the brain, or three, something from the superior plane embedding us either something we should look out for, giving us something we should do, giving us something that is going to end up happening in your physical plane, or in other words, your mini universe. These three kinds of memories or dreams may be called the memory dream, the fantastic dream, not fantastic as amazing, but phantom, like Danny Phantom, the fantastic dream, and the clear dream. They are related to the physical, psychic, and spiritual principles in man. The transition from one stage to another is called mutation, and the sleeping condition is known as the higher or lower mutative sleep. There's also the saying that sleep is the cousin of death. The following diagram shows the various stages of the consciousness. As you see here, guys, this is also the Star of David. At the top, we have the spirit, or the light. The bottom, in the middle, we have the soul, the twilight, or the sapna. And the bottom, the body, jagrata, or darkness. We see how all three are intertwined to create this type of light, dark, and shadows. We see that this is light, dark, and shadows. Everything in this cosmos is light, dark, and shadows. Every kind of dream is in some measure illuminative, for even the dream may consist entirely of our memory products. It is the selective faculty of the soul which, taking a little here and a little there, fashions the fabric of a dream, and builds up the mosaic from the multitude of detached experiences. The dream, thus, presented to the mind, is reflective of a state of existence which is interior to that of waking perception, and to that extent, instructive to it. So as much as we may think dreams are random, or dreams may be impeculiar, or it just may seem odd, the soul is what is picking up certain things it wants you to see. The soul is making you see things that it wants to experience, to be fearful of, to expect. The soul is what, from the higher planes, the soul is picking up from your memory bank. The subconscious is picking up what it wants you to perceive. And it is your job to pick up which one of these dreams is a synchronicity. Which one should I continue to write in my dream book? Which one should actually have sense and nuance in my life? Excessive or indiscreet feeding will cause disturbed dreams, nightmare, and a sense of oppression. And this instructs us that even though mind forms matter, it is certain that matter conditions mind, and that undigested or unassimilated food, which would hardly trouble the wakeful mind, becomes a source of impediment to the soul that would willingly spread its wings where it's not hindered and restrained by its care for the body. A good tenant cannot go away upon a holiday leaving his house in disorder, for should he do so, it would constantly source of anxiety to him. It is right that he should find it clean swept and garnished. At such time, he would again take possession. The greater number of dreams are of this psycho-physiological nature and origin, and must chiefly be interpreted in relation to the body of those mundane events which bear upon the immediate personal interests of the dreamer. Dreams that are disconnected from the physical senses are in the nature of soul images, for the soul thinks in symbols and understands by natural interior perception of their significance. Hence, frequently, the allegorical or symbolic dream carries with it, to the waking perception, a sense of its true significance. All true dreams can be interpreted by natural correspondence, and anybody who is versed in symbology, not as an archaeological science, but as a soul language, can interpret these dreams. So it's not some deep science to try and translate or interpret these dreams. It is just going to be something that you can see within your soul, something that your soul is picking up that you want to see within this Fibonacci cycle of life that you're going through. But in order to apply such interpretations to the individual dreamer, it is necessary to know that what order in the sidereal would such an individual may belong, insofar as the individual is reflected in the horoscope of birth by means of his physical persona. It becomes possible to use the astrological key for the interpretation of dreams. To many people, flowers mean sickness, while to others they signify joy and festivity. A probable explanation of the difference lies in the fact that certain persons are in the habit of being visited with gifts of flowers during illness, and there is hence an associated idea that flowers in sickness, while others, not so fortunately placed as the recipients of floral condolences, have only associated flowers with the brightest days of their lives. For flowers belong to the summer days and to the country where leisure and rest are usually sought. In similar manner, names have a distinct significance when closely associated with events of our waking life. Thus, I know a lady to whom any name with the syllable nor in it is disastrous, and Normanhurst was lost by her through an unfortunate financial crisis. Norma was the name of a fine pedigree St. Bernard dog that died from pneumonia brought on by a careless exposure, while the animal was with the veterinary surgeon. Norsa was the name of the ship christened by her, which went down in its first voyage. Norland was the name of the place in which her child was rendered speechless through a fail. This is sufficient reason why, without being able to ascribe any reason for her prejudice, the name Nora puts her on the defensive whenever she meets a person of that name. The soul, in the dream state, instinctively surrounds itself with the images of those things, their forms, their colors, their names, their smells, which in waking experiences has been associated with happiness whenever its interior state is a happy one, and on the contrary, when its unclouded perception of the future is fraught with prognostics of evil import, it throws down upon the brain of the sleeping personality the images of such things as, within the experience of that personality, are associated with danger or hurt to the mind, body, or estate. With such solitude does the soul watch over its physical instrument that it will forewarn it of any danger that is likely to befall it, providing the conditions for conveying and registering such a iMessage are present. So the hippocampus, which is tied to all four lobes, the parietal, the temporal, the occipital, and the frontal, this is what's going to operate and tell the brain, I feel this, I see this, I can taste this, I can hear this. It associates with all the senses. So your brain has the capability to understand what can make it happy through the limbic system, has the capability to show you what you feel through the fear, through the amygdala, and it's going to show you what the soul is looking for. Similarly, the spirit of man watches over its psyche, a female counterpart, and its in clear dreaming conveys to it that a degree of spiritual instruction or a domination, which it is capable of receiving or of which it is present needed. The spirit has its own imperishable vehicle, the solar body, into which the soul or lunar body is merged after death of the physical. The solar body is called the golden bowl. The holy grail, the lunar body, or thread soul, is called the silver cord, and the physical body is called the pitcher, and the vessel of clay. Thus, in Ecclesiastes we read, and desire shall fail, because man goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about the streets, or even the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain. So we have to understand how these planes matter. The astral plane matters. The physical plane matters. The lunar plane matters. The solar body connects with both the astral plane and the lunar body. That is like the silver cord that gets broken once you pass from this physical plane. You will now be released from this mush of body. You will now become back into the cosmos. You will be back into the astral plane in your lunar body. Because we have many bodies within, beyond this physical body. These things are necessary to be known before we can attempt to regulate our knowledge concerning the nature of our origin of dreams. The symbolism of dreams has therefore a threefold application: a material, a psychic, and a spiritual or mental. We call the spiritual, which arises in the mind from the illumination of the spirit, that psychic, which arises from the emotions, and the physical, which has its origins in material experiences. The spiritual dream is distinguished from the psychic by its being unattended by any degree of emotion, as doubt, anxiety, trouble, or fear, but only a sense of great beatitude. The mind being detached from the vision and regarding it as a magnificent spectacle. The psychic dream, on the contrary, is attended by its distinct emotional disturbance, and if the dreamer does not actually take an active part in it, the scene as one of the dramatic personas, it at least identifies itself sympathetically with one of the actors and experiences by repercussion just as much as if it were taking an active part. What a mother feels for her child in joy or sorrow, in pleasure or pain, the psyche feels for the images of its creation, for they are indeed its children. It is rare, but nevertheless certain, fact that men experience in their physical bodies that which they have been dreaming. Thus, I have recently read of a man who dreamt that he was lying upon the sands exposed to a burning sun, and on awakening he continued to experience the burning sensation in his face, and going to the mirror discovered to his vast astonishment that his face was actually, and most thoroughly, sunburnt. This phenomena is known as astral repercussion. This is like, guys, entering a plane of unconscious state, a sleep state, entering an astral plane and feeling this in not a physical sense, but it transferring over to a physical plane. The man who felt this burning, right? Think of a time where men say they have a wet dream. They can almost feel this succubus in this type of astral plane, and then it almost happening when they wake up in the physical plane, right? When they feel like they fall down, when you fall down backwards or you feel like you're falling and you wake up and your heart is beating extremely fast. This is also an experience from the astral plane that ended up coming to the physical. I once saw the wraith of a living person walk into the room where I was sitting in company with others, and it was observed that the wraith, which appeared in all respects a figure of flesh and blood and properly clothed, knocked his head against the projecting corner of a wardrobe and instantly disappeared in thin air. The next morning, the person whose wraith we had seen appeared with his eye bandaged up, and explained that he had a bruised and swelling must have been stung in the night by a mosquito. We, however, told him a different story. Paracelsus says, artists and students have frequently obtained instruction in their dreams regarding things which they desired to learn. The imagination was thus free and commenced to work its wonders. It attracted to its the Avestra of some philosophers, and they communicated their knowledge to them. So guys, as Paracelsus says, a lot of instruction will happen in these dreams. A good example is Giuseppe Tartini, the man with the violin of the G minor. This is called the Devil's Trill. This Devil's Trill would have never been created, hence he did not see this dream. If he did not feel this dream, he would have never made this masterpiece of art on the violin. Therefore, it is essential to realize the instructions that you get in these dreams can also take place in this physical plane. You can do so much in the physical plane with these dreams. So it is essential to understand how these dreams have an impact in the physical cosmos. Such occurrences frequently take place, but it often happens that part of that which is communicated is forgotten on awakening to the outer world. In such case, it is necessary to observe strict silence, not to speak to anybody, nor to leave the room, nor to take any note of things, but to eat nothing and remain still, and after a while we shall remember the dream. So, if you feel like you're trying to remember a dream, it is essential to not necessarily try and think of the dream. What is essential to happen is you have to try and stay still. Now, what I mean by trying to stay still is your first instinct isn't to try and remember the dream. It's to try and re-enter an alpha state. It's to try and re-enter this alpha state, because you can re-enter this same dream. I've done it many, many times. You can re-enter a dream. You can re-enter it from that same place, but you have to be very diligent. You have to be very silent. You have to be very... Once you wake up, you're in like an alpha state. Your beta state is not in full play yet. If you get into a beta state, it's not going to, you can't enter it again, because you're going to try and use your hippocampus to try and remember little parts, and these little parts will begin to dissipate. It's essential that you use your time wisely and get back into this dream. And then when you do re-enter, try and think about the synchronicities. Think of how this applies to your memory. Why did the soul pick this memory out? Why did the soul make you see this dream? And then after that, write a piece of this down in a dream book. I have found it that if on awakening from a dream, part of which is obscure or forgotten, I continue in the same position, keeping my eyes closed to all external things, and then go over the dream in my imagination, the missing part is generally restored, and I have dreamed the dream all over again. Everyone knows how readily a disturbing dream may be dispelled by changing the position of the body. It is sometimes more convenient to change the position of the mind. Guys, if you wake up and you want to reoccur a dream, it is essential. You don't move the body. You don't try to get out of this alpha state. You don't want to enter a beta state or a gamma state. We want to remain in this alpha state setting in order so we could re-enter this brain's astral setting, so we could get back into that similar dream. This not a similar dream, the exact position of where it was. Your brain is going to now want to re-enter this. The soul is going to pick up these pieces again, so you could re-see it again, or see fragments of what's next. You ever have a dream and you're like, I want to see what was next, but now you're already awake and you can't see what's next? If you want to see what was next, you have to stay in the same position. The astral life, says a well-known occultist, is the most active in man during his sleep. The sidereal, solar man, is the awake and acts through the eavestream, or astral body, causing occasional prophetic dreams, which the person will remember on awakening. But there are also elusive dreams caused by other influences, and man must therefore use his reason and discrimination, discernment, to distinguish the true and the false. So like we said, guys, you may have a plethora of different dreams. Some that may have significance and some that just may be utter time waste. But it is up to you to understand what has actual synchronicities within your mini universe. What actually holds true to you? What should be done? Why did you see that? Why is it? Life operates in a loop. If you look at your thumb right now, this is also a loop. This is the Fibonacci loop. Everything is operating off a loop, whether this is things you're going to be experiencing. things you're going to go back into to re-see. Things are going to constantly be in loops. These operate in dreams as well. So it's essential that you use your reasoning, discernment to see what is true from false. But according to Paracelsus, there may be more reliance placed in dreams than in the revelations of the necromantic art, because the latter are usually false and deceptive, and although the elementals, which use the astral bodies of the dead on such occasions, will give correct answers to questions, and often confirm their assertions with oaths, yet no implicit confidence can be placed in what they say, because they do not wish to speak the truth, nor are they able to speak it. Therefore, the patriarchs, prophets, and saints preferred visions and dreams to any method of divination. Supernatural dreams take place at times among the present generation, but only the wise pay any attention to them. Others treat them with contempt, although such dreams are true and do not deceive. Guys, for many people, they will have astonishing dreams that may hold true in this cosmos, whether this be something they will end up seeing later, or it's something that they have to do. Some of these dreams will teach you things. Many people understand that the brain is a receptor. This brain can teach you many things without ever having to being taught it. The dreams you can have can teach you many, many things. This astral state can teach the teachers above. The spiritual teachers can teach you so many things if you allow it. You have to be accepting to it. You have to understand that many patriarchs, prophets, and saints use these visions and dreams to learn and see who they'll be next. Supernatural dreams are real. It is in your duty to not only discern the truth and false, but to discern how these can actually have synchronicities within your life, or if they don't. It is for you to pick up. Only for you to pick up, because only you can see what's going on in your subconscious and what your soul desires. There are some people whose natures are so spiritual and their souls so exalted that they can approach the highest spiritual sphere when their bodies are asleep. Dreams, visions, and omens are gifts of the sidereal man, and not of the elementary body. The elementary body has no spiritual gifts, but the sidereal body possesses them all. Whenever the elementary body is at rest, the sidereal body is awake and active, because the latter needs neither rest nor sleep. But whenever the elementary body is fully awake and active, the activity of the sidereal body is then restrained, and its free movements are impeded and or hindered, like those of a man who is buried alive in a tomb. This is why many people only ever see the astral plane when they're either dead or when they're finally asleep, because they don't know how to enter an alpha state and astral project. If many people knew how to astral project in the physical plane, they would understand how amazing the astral plane is. They would understand that there's much more to this cosmos than this physical body. They will understand that we are light beings. Everything in this cosmos is light. Electromagnetic light. Ein Sof, everything is light. Whether this be the celestial body, the auric body, the Buddhic body, the spiritual body, the solar body, the lunar body, all these bodies are light. Even the physical body is made up of light, right? All these nerves, all these nerve endings, the blood pumping through these nerve endings, the brain, the frontal lobe having its electromagnetic force to make you move, this aura sphere we have around us, this is all light. So when a man is operating through his beta or gamma waves, the astral plane does not necessarily have to work, because the physical plane needs its full attention. When you're asleep, like we said, sleep is the cousin of death. The astral plane is now awake, because the physical body is not needed right now. So within this alpha wave or theta wave, the astral plane is able to move freely. The right hemisphere brain is able to move freely. The left hemisphere logical side is not discriminating against what you can or can't do. This is why clairvoyance, clairaudience, things of that nature is possible when you're asleep. You see things that you're unimaginable when you're asleep, because there's nothing telling you no. There's nothing telling you there's doubt. There's no limits in the astral plane. There's no limits when you are asleep or dead. A man who is content with the rushlight of his own reason, who will hardly welcome the effulgent rays of the universal sun. What benefit can such people derive from the most perspicuous dream? Localization of dreams is a very remarkable phenomenon, yet almost all persons have some select spot, some haunt to which they repair from time to time in their dreams. It is always the same place and thoroughly well known to the dreamer, though quite outside all waking recognition. So for the most part, many people just take these dreams for granted. They just say, hey, went to sleep, let's get back to it. That's about it for most people. There's a supernatural reason for many of these dreams. You have to pick up on the synchronicities as to why you see them. At such places, one meets the same persons, and the dream is continuous of that which preceded it. For many years, I had such a place where I met and discussed with one of those whose names I afterwards saw in an old Italian book of biographies. And since then, I have not been able to revive the experience in my dreams. But I know that in some cases, these localizations and retrospective and are reminiscent of a former life, while in others, they are prospective and have reference to a place and environment which will eventually be known and experienced. So whether this be your astral plane reliving a different life through your own memories, using your own memory bank to create this nuance of a life you lived, to live in this life in this physical plane, or whether to show you something you will see down the line. The soul is much more intelligent than you could think. It is much more valuable than you can imagine. The interpretation of dreams, says Paracelsus, is an art that is known to the wise. Many books proposing to interpret dreams have appeared from time to time, but from their content, it is readily seen that they are designed to impress the ignorant reader or to express the ignorant author. For by no rule of art or understanding of universal symbolism, which is the only language known to the soul of man, can the interpretations be justified. A very valuable initiatory work has been done and delivered to us by Emanuel Swedenborg, the Swedish seer, in his hieroglyphic key to natural and spiritual mysteries. The present work does not permit of thorough exposition of the symbolism of dreams, and it is therefore thought advisable to attempt the task of formulating a system of interpretation. Such a system, however, does not exist, or does exist and has been reflected in all the scriptures of all peoples from time immemorial. The universe and the man, Constantius, there is a universal symbolism and universal language, and if you please, a universal dream book. So guys, this was Dreams Explained, a deep dive into dreams. How the astral plane, the physical plane, and the spiritual plane are all connected. The Atmic plane, the Buddhist plane, and how these are all connected within the dreams. My question is to you, are you seeing the synchronicities? My question is to you, do you feel these dreams are real? Do you feel your subconscious telling you something? Is your soul pulling you towards something? Feel free to leave a comment down below. Also like and subscribe. Check us out on Patreon, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, things of that nature. This has been your fallen angel, and I am out.